Hello there. Welcome to the third part in what will be a four-part series, although one of the parts I split into two videos, so this is actually the fourth video out of five, just depends on how you want to count it, regarding the Boox Go 10.3. So the first video was looking at the unboxing, looking at the hardware, and just a quick first impressions video. Part two, which was split into two pieces, was a very thorough, not comprehensive view of the UI and all the functionality that's available on the devices. And now we find ourselves at part three. So in this particular episode, I'm going to go over the battery test results of the Go. I'm going to go over what it's like to use a keyboard with the device, and then I'll cover some other kind of miscellaneous things, some in response to comments that have happened with some of the other videos, others just more kind of little bits of information here or there. So this is kind of a potpourri, I guess, of things I want to tidy up going into the final video, which will be the formal review. So let's go ahead and get on into it. Okay, to measure the battery drain, I did a number of tests, and what you can see here is how the Boox Go will compare to other devices that are 10 inches and have e-ink screens. I've highlighted the Boox Go on the top row in green, and then the Remarkable 2, since that's an area of focus, lower down on the table. But of course we have other devices here as well, from the Kindle Scribe all the way down to the Supernote A5X. And you can see what their battery size is the next column over. The way to read the table is each percentage represents how much battery drain you would experience per hour if you only did that one particular activity. So our very first activity is what I call standby with the screen off. And this might also be known as sleep mode or, again, standby mode. And the idea is that when you wake the device, in a couple seconds, it's ready to go. So you can pretty much, get going at any point in time. Now, the Remarkable has been our historic leader at 0.02%. This is one of the areas where the Remarkable does really well. And the Boox Go 10.3 did not compete with that. It actually performed relatively poorly at 0.17% per hour, which puts it actually second highest on this table. Having said that, what that means in practical terms is if you fully charged the Boox Go, you left it on standby mode, and you didn't do anything with it, the device would still last over 3 weeks before the battery completely drained. So it's not the worst result in the world, but certainly compared to other devices, it is lagging behind. Now let's take a look at standby again, but this time with the screen on. So this is basically where the device has the screen on. You can interact with it at any time, but nothing else is going on. In that particular case, the Boox Go did quite well, and it drained at just 0.4%, which is right there with the best devices on the table. Wi-Fi is an area where the Boox Go actually set a record for 10-inch devices, and it only drained at 0.7%. And this is with Wi-Fi on and active, but not actually downloading, just pinging the internet and what have you. So really good battery life on standby with the screen on, and with Wi-Fi, kind of middling battery life on standby with the screen off. Now, I do this test. I'll either use the Kindle app or the Kobo app. I'll normally default to Kobo, and basically, I just start reading, and then we see what the battery drain is there. And in the case of the Go 10.3, the battery drain is 1.5%, which is decent. It's not, it's kind of in the middle of the pack. It's better than half the devices on the list, but there are a number of devices that do it better, and most notably, the Kindle Scribe and the Ellipsa 2e have the best battery drain, and you'd hope so, as those devices are reading first devices. The Remarkable is listed with an NA because the Remarkable does not have either the Kindle nor the Kobo app. The last category is called continuous note-taking, and this is kind of an artificial category, but I think it's meant to proxy the type of battery drain that you can expect in writing relative to other devices. The way that the battery test works is I basically start the clock and I start writing with no break. I'll do that for at least 10 minutes, and then I'll start checking the battery level until the battery indicator drops, and I have a sense of what that drain is. So it's a little bit of an artificial test in the sense that, that level of writing is a little bit unusual. There's absolutely no breaks. It's very intensive. Perhaps it's matched by taking notes during a lecture or what have you. But generally speaking, you don't take notes quite that intensively. Nevertheless, the important thing here isn't the test itself, but the consistency. And in the case of the Boox 10.3, it ranked at 8%, which actually was the second best on the table behind only the Kindle Scribe. So the Boox Go 10.3 did really well as it related to this particular activity, which is a good selling point because the Boox Go really is focused on note-taking, and where it counts, its battery life is quite good. In the first video of this series, that was the unboxing and kind of look at the hardware, one of the things that I showed was that how you could use the cover to stand the device, and that the device screen can pivot at different angles. But we were doing that from a top-down view. So I want to show you here where you can get a better sense of what that looks like and how it works, and also a particular tip that a viewer shared, which is pretty ingenious. So first off, we've got our device right here. We've got the flap on with holding the stylus. Let's go ahead and get rid of the flap and remove the stylus for now. And now I'm going to go ahead and open up the device and use this fold, which is right here, to fold the device like so. And by doing so, you can prop it against the underside of the front cover, and that basically allows you to set the device at multiple viewing angles. Now, in that original first video, I was surprised how well the friction and weight distribution of the device kept this device in place. But upon using the cover more often subsequent to that video, it will sometimes, particularly at an angle like this, or even closer, say, like this, slide on the cover. So that friction isn't foolproof. And so the trick to be able to resolve that is you can take your flap and you can basically moor it to the inside of the front of the cover, and it performs a stop which the device securely leans against. So a nice tip if you're using a more extreme angle that will prevent it from sliding. And if you just want security, even if you're putting it back like this, which is highly unlikely to slide, you can still just put the cover there just in case, or to get it out of the way. Now that we have the device at this angle, we can go ahead and take a quick look, get in closer, and observe what it's like to use a Bluetooth keyboard. I've paired this Bluetooth keyboard to the device, so we're going to go ahead and bring the camera in tight onto the device. We'll go ahead and log in, or reconnect rather, the Bluetooth keyboard, and then you can see how the device performs in typing. Okay, so we're inside a text file, which I've created in the note-taking app. Just a few things we need to do before we get started. I'm going to go ahead and swipe down and turn on the Bluetooth toggle. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn on my Bluetooth device, like so. And you'll notice that the name pretty quickly appears there, and we heard that chime as well. So pretty quick connection. This is, of course, after I've already paired the device, but it remembers devices really well. If I go into the e-ink center, like so, just want to highlight that we'll be using this A2 mode. It seems to have the best responsiveness of all the modes as it relates to typing. So let's go ahead and tap on that. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to make the font really large just for this demonstration. So I'm going to go ahead, and do that. In theory, let's see. There we go. I'm at a bit of an angle, so that's making it awkward, so just ignore that. We'll go ahead and refresh the screen, and this is what it is like to type with a Bluetooth keyboard. So as you can see, and I was calling out the words as I was typing them, the responsiveness is really good. Not much lag, if any at all, between typing the character and it appearing on the screen. And then the way the letters type across the screen is very smooth. So it's a really nice typing experience because the screen is just responsive enough that it makes it doesn't become jarring at all. I am far from an expert on manga. It's just not a format I tend to read, but I know that there's a lot of interest in that and how that would look on this particular device. So I'm going to go ahead and do my best to at least give a sense of how manga performs. And to do that, we have this app called Shonen Jump. We're going to go ahead and click on in there. And we're going to go ahead and go into this book. So the black and white looks great. There's a couple ways to handle the refresh settings. So let's go ahead and go into the e-ink center. And we're on Regal currently. So what Regal's doing for us is it's generally, not entirely, but generally eliminating ghosting as we go from page to page. So you get a little bit of flashing, but you end up with a result which is generally pretty clean. Let me just go through a few more pages to kind of highlight that. Okay, now if you don't like the flashing, then alternately, we can go into the e-ink center and go into, we'll go into speed. And you get a smoother transition between pages. Not necessarily smooth, but smoother. But you are introducing more ghosting. Let's go ahead and try A2. See what that looks like. Okay, that's even smoother still, but you can see there's a lot more ghosting as a result. I mean, you can see, for example, some of the text from the previous slide. So two possibilities there. If you like the smoother transition than what you get with Regal, then you can either kind of ignore the ghosting or use like a swipe gesture to get rid of it if it gets too intrusive, like so. So you can see a little bit of ghosting. There's a line right there. And that's pretty much your overview around manga. If there's any particular setting that you want me to try, let me know and we'll do it. But this is the basic overview. Okay, so one request I always get when I'm reviewing devices that have the Google Play Store is how well do videos work on the device? And the answer is always not great, but sometimes it's more tolerable than others. And so in this case, I'm in YouTube. Here's a video, and we're going to watch about 5 or 10 seconds of this video, which is titled Can't Hug Every Cat. Pretty funny video if you haven't seen it before. But basically, I'm going to go ahead and play this. I'm using the X refresh mode, which is supposed to be good for videos. The speaker sounds are a little bit high on this because they're pretty soft when I play them on a lower volume. But by increasing that sound, it also adds a little bit of distortion. So just kind of be aware of that. Let's just go ahead and play it and see what it sounds like.
This is my first attempt at a eHarmony video. I'm nervous, but I'm excited at the same time. So I'm just going to start talking about what I like.
Okay, so you might have noticed a few things. First off, tons of ghosting, but also that the frame rate is such that the audio and her mouth isn't always in sync. Much like any other e-ink device, watching videos is really kind of a tolerable experience. It's something that you might do if you didn't have any other devices to like a phone or what have you to watch videos. It's passable, but not great. I do find that other devices handled videos a little bit better. I seem to remember the Note Air 3C, for example, being a lot better than this. So I'm not sure what the difference is and why this one has a lot more ghosting and what have you. And I don't want to say that the Note Air 3C is great, by the way. That's also tolerable as well. Just seems a bit worse on this device as you've seen. So that's the YouTube experience or watching videos and what that's like. As it relates to the speakers, the speakers are okay. These are fine for a tablet. They're great for notification sounds. They're not super great when you're playing video and audio, but they're again tolerable. They'll do the job. If I was listening to an audiobook, for example, I would definitely want to connect Bluetooth earbuds to the device to get a good audio sound. I wouldn't rely on the speakers. So anyway, those are my 2 cents. Hopefully that was helpful and gave you a sense of what running videos on the Go 10.3 is all about. So one question I got was whether you could print from the Go device, and my initial answer was no, but as I looked into it, actually you can. Now the way I was able to do it is I created a file, a notebook file. I then exported that as a PDF file, so it saved the PDF onto the device. And then when I go to that PDF file, if you long press on that, options come up, including share. You click on share, and then there's a printer option. Click on the printer option, and if you have any Wi-Fi printers on the same network that your device is on, in my case, it appeared there, and I was able to print no problem. Now, one question that extended from that is, does it matter whether you're printing in a vector PDF versus a bitmap PDF? And it turns out, in my case, the answer was no. So here is what the vector PDF printed out. And this is, again, from a notebook file. And then this is what the bitmap PDF printed out, again, also from a notebook file. And they look identical to me. I see no differences between either of them. As noted before, there is a difference between the two file types in that the vector is supposed to be editable by any third-party software outside, and then the bitmap is not supposed to be editable. The vector has the larger file size, the bitmap has the smaller file size. So those are the apparent differences between the two, but not when you print out on paper. They'll come out looking identical to each other. Just a couple of quick points about the hardware that I kind of missed on the initial unboxing video. I noted that the microphone was down below here, which is true, but also is the power indicator. So the left side is the power indicator, the right side is the microphone. So you plug it in here on the USB port, and then over here right next to that is the power indicator. The other thing to point out is that the power indicator is here, and then the button is over here, the power button on top. What I like about that is that it's not aligned with each other. So a lot of times when I find I'm putting the power into the device, I'm going to grab on the alternate side just to secure it as I push, the USB-C cable in. And so it's nice not to have the power button on the other side. And there's a number of devices that do that, and it's really kind of annoying. So props to Boox to offset those things for that very reason. And then finally, the last point about the power button, and you can kind of see it here, it kind of comes out a little bit. A lot of people don't like that. I do. I like the fact that the power button kind of juts out. I don't like reaching in to be able to switch on the power button. I think it's a satisfying button to press. The reason why some people don't like that, however, is if you put it in a bag, there's a chance that the button, because it's not recessed, might be accidentally pressed. I personally don't have that experience, and so I prefer this mode, but other people who might have that issue disagree. So there's just two perspectives on the same thing, but for me, it's a good feature on this particular device. One thing that's come up a lot in the comments from the previous videos in this series is questions about front lighting, and is it really necessary or not? And one of the things that I've said on a couple of occasions now is that in my opinion, generally speaking, I find that for note-taking you don't need front lighting, and for reading you generally do. And what I really mean by that is that in my personal experience, I find I'm in environments where when I'm taking notes, the lighting is adequate for that activity. And when I'm reading, I'm tending to needing front lighting at least some of the time. So really, it's not the activity that matters, it's actually the lighting and the environment. So I think a lot of people still are kind of confused about, well, can I read on this device or not? And the answer is, of course you can, as long as the lighting is adequate for that purpose. And so the only thing I'll say in extension of that is that probably one way to kind of tell if the device might be right for you is just take a book. I've got, a sample book here, and go into the places where you would likely be reading with the device. And, take a book that has, light colored pages, whether it's white or cream color, probably doesn't matter. And then just take that book and see, can you read that in the lighting that's available? If the answer is yes, then you should be able to read off of the Go device, no problem, even though it doesn't have the front lighting. It's not a perfect test, but I think for a lot of you that are unsure about what the impact of front lighting is, and want to think of it in a more practical way, without actually having to try out the device yourself and finding out that it works or doesn't work for you, that's a test I think that might be helpful to determine whether front lighting has any relevance for your particular situation. So I hope that helps. And if you have any questions, as always, let me know. Okay, so that concludes part 3. All that's left is the formal review. I've got my notes all together. I'm going to start putting it together, and it will be out in just a few days. So thank you for your patience. It does take me a while. When I first get a device, I do have a general sense of how it will perform, but there's a lot of nuances, particularly with a device like this, and I need a little bit of time to kind of work through those before I can post the review. But I'm pretty much ready to go, so it's only going to be in a couple days, and that will come out, and that will conclude this formal series. There may be other videos about the Go, depending on folks' comments and the other areas they may want me to explore, but the core series is about to come to an end. So it's been an interesting adventure. We're nearing the finish line, and I hope to see you there. Until then, hope you have a great day.